Hey, what is going on YouTube? Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Today we are in the Renown, the British Tier 5 battlecruiser of the new tech tree line recently added to World of Warships Legends. And guys, this is honestly probably my favorite ship of the line. I've only played the Tier 5 and the Tier 7. I've looked at the others and I definitely need to give them a try. But this ship with the new commander is what I hoped the Repulse to be. Now, obviously, the Renown is a very similar ship, so some people are going to be like, what? You hated the Repulse? And I know, but I think it's just the combination of this new commander and the torpedoes that really give this ship the little added edge. I will, of course, go over these stats and commander guide at the end, and I think I'm actually going to do a little video on how to get this commander. It's a calendar event, and then I'm sure he'll be available for purchase or crates. I'm not exactly sure. Don't quote me on that, but there is the little calendar event for the new, I believe his name's John Fisher, but I will link the timestamp for that at the end of the video. But regardless, and without further ado, we have the gameplay here in the Renown, which turns out to be a pretty spicy game right up until the end, where we utilize the full complement of these British battlecruisers. First of all, we are on the map Haven, and it bugs me so much that the spawns are correct for this tier. If you'll notice, we're actually out on the flank here, and that's because we spawned here. I don't know why Wargaming refuses to just adjust the spawns at high tiers, but anyway, it allows us to get out on this flank here, and it kind of evens out the map to allow us to utilize all of the map instead of, crunching us to the bottom of the bottom square there where most of the battle takes place. But what we're doing, the reason I'm blabbering about this is we're going out here and getting the flank. This is a perfect flank for the British battlecruisers. Out here, you can utilize your speed at, medium range where the guns really hit. I will say, only having 6 guns at this tier 5 without the most, accurate salvos can be a little bit frustrating, but here's a perfect example of that. Only 2 hits out of 6, but one of them was a Citadel with that short fuse AP. And yeah, we're already cooking. That Nuremberg, he did actually, he dodged the first salvo and then he turned directly broadside. And of course, if we would have gotten RNG to go our way, we could have potentially had a little bit of a better salvo. I'm not going to lie, I actually kind of get myself stuck out here, mainly due to that New Mexico. We knew that there were 3 battleships in this game, and we were a little worried about one, and, of course, there it is. But what we're going to do here is we're going to try and utilize our concealment. Now, unfortunately, this New Mexico does push in, and it prevents us from getting a full turn here. We also don't want to give a full broadside. I angle up here. We're not fully angled, but I'm waiting for the New Mexico to shoot and then, potentially drop spot. That is when we notice the smoke screen in front of us. So we're kind of in a tricky position here, and this is part of the reason it bugged me when people in my Repulse video were like, well, yeah, you just have to play out on the flank and use your speed. It's like, okay, I use my speed for what? Getting further out on the flank, away from the objectives, away from the ships, or push in a situation like this. And this is part of the problem with the British battlecruisers. But we wait for that New Mexico to shoot. We actually returned fire and got a nice chunky penetration off of him, and we're going to go ahead and turn out of this situation. We cannot push the smoke screen. I think the 2 destroyers were a Fubuki and a Visby, so we know that it was not the smoke screen, obviously, because the Visby doesn't have one. And we knew that it was the Fubuki, and there are his torpedoes. I actually do have to give our cruiser a little bit of credit. He pushes this situation here, and that's actually a pretty smart play, mainly because the New Mexico is shooting at me instead of shooting at the broadside cruiser. Gotta love that CC bias, but because of his push, he is able to detect that Fubuki and does end up getting a good amount of damage. I believe he actually does kill him, but that will come later in this game. Using our speed here, this is potentially another risky turn, but it's just a game you're going to have to play. The Renown actually has a moderately protected armor scheme. We do drop spot before this New Mexico is reloaded. He decided to kite out instead of helping his friendlies there, and that is when he does shoot the Kirov. But the Kirov did get the kill on the Fubuki, which is pretty huge for our team. In the meantime, though, we're going to go ahead and reposition in the middle. If you'll notice, our team on the left is pretty weak. There's only 1 battleship out there, and the rest of our team is kind of focused on the right here. So we're going to go ahead and reposition towards the middle, utilizing our speed as we pop our engine boost here. And that is when we notice this Emerald coming around the corner. Probably the most salivating shot we had of the whole day as the Kirov goes down to the torpedoes of the Nuremberg. Like I said, that Nuremberg was actually a pretty decent player. We lead the shot here just a touch low as he is coming towards us. Get some decent dispersion. They all look pretty good. And only one Citadel, of course. 3 overpens, 1 Citadel. They all looked like they landed in the Citadel, but regardless, we got a huge chunky penetration off of him. You're just going to have to get RNG to go your way if you want the dev strikes. I've already gotten a few with this thing, despite it only having 6 guns. I feel like the guns on this thing are better than Repulse, even though I think they're the exact same guns. And here, if you'll notice, we shot the first ship, the Leander there, or the Emerald, I'm sorry, and then we lined up the Nuremberg. Time to travel was 8 seconds. 3, 2, 1. Oh, good night. Yes, we got the double strike there. And that is, somebody asked me a long time ago how to line up your double strikes. It's just realizing situations like that, like shooting the front 2 turrets at that Emerald there, which we knew was it's a very weakly armored ship. We have, short fuse AP, or so I've been told. And then lining up the shot on that Nuremberg. Of course, you have to get potentially lucky that both ships are low, but a beautiful example of kind of setting up the double strike there. And that we're just getting started, right? We finished this game with a nice little damage total, and we haven't even got in torpedo range, which gets pretty fun towards the end here. We're shooting between islands here. We do know that other destroyer is out here, so we're a little cautious trying to utilize or play the spot game. And what I mean by that is, if you're spotted and it's not, surface detection, for example, this New Mexico when we're shooting, like right now, we know that this destroyer is either somewhere off to our right or somewhere in front of us. He's most likely in front of us because his last known was directly in front of us. So we have to play this game of where is the destroyer? And if you're not playing this game as a battleship, and it's funny to me because you see the very low IQ battleship players be like, well, I hate how destroyers are concealed. And there we actually just got ripped by that Renown, probably not paying as much attention as I should have been, but he decides to turn broadside. We go ahead and swing the back turret there. We still have that New Mexico out there. I'm not sure what our cruisers are doing. They're playing, follow the leader there as we actually tick the high caliber. It's fun because high caliber is kind of a lower number at tier 5 here, as opposed to like sometimes at legendary tier it's like 180,000. But getting a high caliber at 84k is always nice. We see that New Mexico. We're going to go ahead and line up that shot. Killing that New Mexico will remove the angle from our broadside, so we're going to want to kill him. We also know that we have torpedoes, so we're just going to go ahead and push in here. Our team does have an advantage. Playing recklessly, I mean, I wouldn't label this as recklessly, but this is a moderately aggressive push, and you have to be careful when you're doing that, especially in a game. This game isn't quite won yet. Now, of course, we're about to get the kill on this New Mexico, and our team is doing a decent job of kind of holding this right side here. But that destroyer could sneak around and back cap our base, as well as if we push single file in here, we could just get picked off one by one, and you see it very often. So it's something to pay attention to. And something I could have been paying attention to a little bit more was this destroyer out on our left here. Thank goodness it was a Visby, which is a pan-European destroyer, and the torpedoes do not do that much damage. But we are a battleship player who is utilizing our health. With the commander we're running, which I mentioned we'll be going over, we get the extra heals with Master Mechanic here. And of course, this Renown is coming around the corner, which we decide to use our single launch torpedoes. He actually turns in, we get the salvo away. Don't get the dev strike on the salvo, but of course we have our torpedoes in the water. And this is why you guys will see me launch torpedoes short. We launched all of those short, with the last one being the most short, or shortest launched, and that was the only one to connect. Not the most effective hit there, but it finished him off for our 4th and final kill. And that is when the Tiger pops up in front of us, and yes, we're going brawling once again. And this is truly what makes these ships really fun to play. The complement of torpedoes, decent armor, moderate guns, and like we mentioned, the engine boost, kind of just, rolled into this package here. These ships are not going to be widely played or played that well by the majority of the player base, but they, if you have if you have more than 2 functioning neurons, you can do well in most situations with these ships. It looks like we got a single launch torpedo from the Tiger there, and that is when we are lining up our torpedo run. We're also looking around for that Visby. Like we mentioned, he's still out there, so something to be cautious of. We're going to go ahead and lead this first one and then kind of launch them on the line and then launch the rest short. We could get a touch closer with these as we line up the nice broadside here, but the kind of trait or the quirk of these torpedoes is that they have a longer arming range, so you need to launch them, you need to have a little bit of distance in order to launch them. But that is the 5th and final kill we get in this game for a nice little damage total there with the Kraken and the high caliber, of course, as well as the double strike. So just a perfect game to show you guys what you can achieve out of this British battlecruiser line. Again, if you activate 2 neurons at the same time. Here we're looking for this destroyer, and this next part is a good example of utilizing the tools available and being smart. We go dark here, so we're looking around, we're like, I wonder where this destroyer is, and that is when the Königsberg says he's detected. So where's the destroyer? He is right behind this island, and that is when the torpedoes pop up. You will notice here, and the reason I wanted to include this is people talked about blind firing. We're going around this corner, the corner of this island. We become detected. Now, I didn't necessarily lead this shot the best, but you can see our shot was moderately online, a few kilometers behind and a few kilometers short. But that is just, people wonder how we do these blind fires, you know, and I've been accused of cheating a few times as we finish the game with the Dreadnought there as well. But using your angles and using your, you know, intelligence, right? The Königsberg said he was spotted. The only way he could have been detected is if that destroyer was out there on that side. We go dark, so that means he's behind that island. We take the blind fire. Now, it wasn't the closest blind fire, but it was in the same general direction. But there is the final total: Dreadnought, high caliber, double strike, and Confederate. And here is the new commander, which I highly recommend you start the little modified campaign for. John Fisher with the Furious Temper trait, battleship main battery reload time, battleship main battery range, as well as flammable cannoneer. I think it is, gyrating drill bits or crisscross there. And then the third perk, I wouldn't recommend taking the second perk. We look at it here. Yeah, gyrating drill bits, which you do lose your battleship speed, which is something to think about. But the third perk, reformer there, which is your main battery range, torpedo range, as well as your dispersion. So a gnarly third perk there, as well as having master mechanic in the 4th slot. We are running Iachino as well as De Revel for the reload there. So potentially I need to look at the gyrating drill bits. I don't like the second perk there. It increases your reload time for every HP lost. So again, it could be something decent, but with your heals there. But regardless, here are the stats of the ship. 53,540 health, with the artillery being 3x2 381s. 17.9 kilometers of firing range, 23-second reload, decent fire chance with a pretty good, AP alpha strike there of the Citadel at 12,485. Moving on to the torpedoes, 8x1. I don't know why it says 8x1. It should read 4x2 because there's 4 on each side. They are single launchers, and I guess they just, I don't know how they label that, but you have 4 on each side, which are in single launchers, kind of on the midship there. AA defense is 69, nice. Maneuverability is decent, 27.7 there, and we do have gyrating drill bits, so keep that in mind, which is reducing our speed a little bit. I didn't think about that when I was looking at this build. There are our modules. And here I actually wanted to look at the torpedoes. Some people said they're underwater, and a few of them are on different ships, but for the Renown and the Hawk, they are on the midship there. You have 2 in the middle there, and then 2 in the rear. You can kind of see those portholes. So again, I don't know why it says 8x1. It's definitely 4x2, but they're single launch, so yeah. Anyway, here is the armor. You've got 26mm bow and stern plating, so pretty squishy. You can also see that torpedo protection is not a lot. It gets a little bit chunkier on the casemate and the mid-belt there, but that honestly just leads to those chunky penetrations. Now, as opposed to the tier 6, 7, and 8, really, you do have a moderately protected Citadel, as we can look at the torpedo protection there. You've got a little bit of a lower Citadel with a slight turtleback there, so as long as you're, not at that mid to long range, which is honestly where these ships play best. But given this ship's armor as opposed to the other ones, this one will probably be a little bit better in the brawling regard. That being said, you can still, of course, brawl in the other ships. The Hawk's torpedoes are not quite as effective as the Renown, mainly only because you have 2. But there is the ship, the HMS Renown, the tier 5 of the new British battlecruiser tech tree line. Get out your wallets and get them in early access. And again, with the John Fisher commander there. So honestly, probably the most fun I've had out of that line. The Hawk is all right, but I'm waiting to get the Duncan and or the St. Vincent, which will come in 8 to 10 business years. But that's the video, guys. Hope you guys enjoyed that little first look there. Hey, Aaron out. Peace.